Yo, what's going on, everybody? We are live. I am gonna be looking at some pictures of my clients or my buddies that are getting ready for a show this weekend. Some of the goats I have for sale, so just stuff that's been going on in my life. If you're rewatching this and it seems a little dull in the beginning, skip forward. I'm sending the link to people. My wife's playing The Division, and we're gonna stream it, and I'm gonna share it some too while I'm live. But I haven't been live in a while, and magically the light turned out really good here. The vertical one can't tell, but the horizontal version, it looks like I tried to do that. All right, invite. So let's see what's been going on. Hey, what's up, Mandy?
Just so I can.
Send him this. Sorry, I'll send in some links. Send in some links. To my dudes. Michael, Joseph, we got Chase, Link. All right, I'm not looking at my screen, guys. So if anyone is here, welcome to the live stream. Not much happening right now, but we will in a second. Let's see if I can share screen. All right, I do want to share the window, but I'll start with this one. All right, so Capua, city of Commune, in province of Caserta, the region of Campania, southern Italy. So when Secundus comes back to Capua in Secundus, he sails to Campania, pretty much, to get back home. Of course, it was like, 3 weeks at sea just to get there from Jerusalem. But Capua's name comes from the Etruscan Capiva, which means city of marshes. Its foundation is attributed to Cato the Elder and to the Etruscans. And the date was given about 260 years before it was conquered by Rome. That, if true, refers not to its capture of the Second Punic War, 211 BC, but submission to Rome in 338 BC. That places the date of the foundation at about 600 BC, while Etruscan power was at its highest. In the area, several settlements of the Villanovian civilization were present in the prehistoric times. These were probably enlarged by the Oscans and subsequently by the Etruscans. Etruscan supremacy in Campania came to an end with the Samnites invasion of the latter half of the 5th century BC. So we're still in the BC, obviously. In about 424 BC, Capua was captured by the Samnites, and the 343 BC sought Roman help against its conquerors. They allied for protection against the Samnite mountain tribes, along with its dependent communities of Casilinum, Italia, Atella, and so the greater part of Campania now fell under Roman supremacy. The citizens of Capua received the civitas in suffragio, citizen without the vote. Second Samnite war with Rome, Capua proved an untrustworthy Roman ally, so that after the defeat of the Samnites, the Ager Falernus at the right bank of the Volturnus was confiscated. In 318 BC, the powers of the native officials, Medicis, were limited by the appointed officials. The title Prefecti Capuam Cumas, taking the name from the most important towns of Campania. They were at the first mere deputies of the Praetor Urbanus, but after 123 BC were elected Roman magistrates, 4 in number. They governed the whole Campania until the time of Augustus, when they were abolished. It was the capital of Campania Felix. 312 BC, Capua was connected with Rome by the construction of the Via Appia, the most important of the military highways of Italy. The gate by which it left the Servian walls of Rome bore the name Porta Capena, perhaps the only case which a gate of this line fortifications bear the name of the place which it led. All right, so what we're looking for, history, boom, 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 boom. We're looking for some stuff on the black market of Capua. Haven't really dove into it too hard, but Capua is where Spartacus and the gladiator school was, which was a revolt in 73 BC. 59 BC, Julius Caesar, serving as consul, established a Roman colony in the territory named Calonia, Julia Felix, under his agrarian reform, settling 20,000 Roman citizens in Capua. And this is kind of getting closer to the time where Antonius is getting to Capua. Antonius got to Capua right before the turn of the century, pretty much. Or actually, it was right after, really. Single digits, practically. AD. The War of 69 AD, Capua took sides of the Vitellius under the later empire. It's not often mentioned, but in the 4th century. Let's see who we got here. All right, let's see. Let's look at some of the comments real quick because, okay, so Jennifer Cheong, hi. And then she asks, what are you doing? I'm talking about Capua. Of course, you're not going to know what I'm talking about. You just stumbled across my stream. Question marks. I'm clearly reading from another page. Could not see your question yet. I'm just saying, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, we get it. We got it. We got it on the second message. But thank you for stopping by. All right, let's see what I'm doing here. Hit up Marcel. Yo, bro. Let me go to YouTube and see if my wife is streaming. I'll play this. Boom.
I know I shouldn't, but
I'm not sure. Huh? I'll bring you in. I'll give you two. Okay. You want to get
are you streaming me or are you?
I'm streaming it. I'm just waiting on some of the stuff. What's going on, everybody? What's up, everybody? I can finally hear now. So, all right, we're looking at Capoeira. All right, so I found this Reddit post here. It says, "Ask stories." Capoeira suffered from a long series of bad decisions and disastrous destructions. She had been one of the most powerful cities in Italy in the 4th and 3rd centuries BCE, but in 216 she decided to back Hannibal versus the Romans. By 211, the city had been recaptured by the Romans. Leaders of the revolt were executed. Capo was stripped of her territory and her political rights in the Roman system. This was a serious blow for the city. Nevertheless, she recovered and became a prosperous city once again, despite the weight of several colonial foundations, notably under Caesar and then Antonius, among others. There are lots of inscriptions and public buildings to speak of in the imperial period. Capo suffered a long series of destructions. The Vandals burned it in 456 CE. The Lombards, a century later, and some Saracens, not sure how you say that, apparently completely destroyed her in 840 CE. Troubles with the city continued after this until they wound up in the backwater area of the Kingdom of Sicily itself, the backwater to the important political tensions in late medieval and early Renaissance periods. It says, was this a gladiator industry so large to affect the overall welfare of this significant town? I'm just wondering, as I have always had the impression that it was more like pro sports today, big money, not an incredible amount of overall scheme of things. All right, and what do they say? Well, this is complicated, but I would say that the gladiatorial industry was very big, especially in the 1st century BCE. The Roman system by which a young man climbed the ladder of political offices, the Romans called the cursus honorum, path of offices, became very tangled up in games. The typical sequence was this: one military service as an assistant of some sort, quaestor, so sort of like a financial assistant, aedile, praetor, consul, highest office technically. Aedile position is key here. The technical role of the post was to maintain public structures and oversee the observance of religious festivals. In reality, it became the vehicle by which Roman aristocrats got their name out there by putting, "Hey, bud, can you turn that light off so she'll shut the hell up? That goat won't be quiet." By putting on insane festivals, particularly gladiatorial schools, bouts, and animal hunts. Venetians, if you crapped out your chance to make a splash, your chances of getting noticed at the elections for a higher office were lessened. Let's see. If you crapped out your chance to make a splash, high chances of getting noticed at the elections for higher office were lessened. The legend is that Caesar paid 320 pairs of gladiators for shows, which most of which would have come from capital. See Plutarch Caesar 5, or Plutarch Caesar. And this sort of production went on just about every year until the imperial period, after which was idolship declined in importance, but the emperor still spent plenty on gladiators and needed a supply. So on one hand, I would say that the businesses of gladiators was big in the late Republic, and that Capua had a stranglehold on the market as a sort of gladiator clearinghouse. The idea being that you don't bring untried gladiators into the arenas of Rome. You vet them first to Capua and get them cream of the crop. On the other hand, you were right, gladiatorial shows general probably about the same as the level of revenue-wise as NFL or European football today. Capua is a special case as far as the economics of games. Side note, the city of Carthage became very important for games during the imperial period. Carthage was one of the 4 largest cities in the world at that time. Rome, Alexandria, Antioch are the others. And are situated in such a way that they control the flow of exotic animals and exotic humans from the Sahara and beyond toward the rest of the Mediterranean ports. Carthage had an enormous sports scene. It must have also suffered severe economic recession from the advent of Christianity. Shifted class of Western Roman Empire, Italy fell under the rule of Theodore the Ostrogoth in around 500 AD, so that's way after his death. The Byzantines invaded Italy, Gothic War. Okay. All right, so real quick, I'm going to show some of my clients, well, not my clients, but they're my friends that are doing their first show this weekend. What do you need, bud?
I can read like a story as through this one. The really short one. You don't have to stop it.
I know.
Viral contamination detected. System unresponsive.
Looks like you're gonna need to restore power to get into that lab. There has to be some kind of backup power supply. See what you can find.
Local power restored.
Well done. You should be able to recover the cash now.
No, go through. real quick with my dudes. Show everybody what they're looking like. There we go. Okay. So add the stage. All right. So I got some stuff here that I was looking at. So here's my buddy Jesse. He's getting ready for his first. Everybody talks about the Greek gods, and everyone's obsessed with Greek. And the gym that I go to, because of so many stereotypes about Greek gods looking like Greek gods or goddesses, stuff like that, this is all the same time period too that everyone kind of thinks about, when it comes to this particular, pageantry that I used to do that I don't do anymore. But this particular guy is 38. He's my age. And the lady behind him that's watching him pose, she's a judge and a posing coach and a diet coach for all this stuff. She's like 60 something. But Jesse looks really good, just for people that don't understand how hard this is to do. Keeping guys full and their muscles there and trying them not to disappear by the time they're actually getting on stage. Usually your first show, you lose more muscle than any other show you've ever done. But we all talk about Greek gods and stuff, but this little Gnostic pseudo-theological, group of atheists that happen to be a large portion of like people that watch the show. If you make any money, you're blacklisted. And if you're in good shape or something, you're considered something, I don't know, that's kind of looked down upon a little bit in this world because there's so many liberals in that pseudo-theological world. There's a lot of liberals in there. We used to have a former Mr. Olympia watching my show back when I was talking a lot about like the Hillman stuff. But what's weird to me is that some of the Amon Hillman people will show up and they're like, why aren't you covering his stuff anymore? I'm like, what else are we going to cover? How many times he's wrong? How it's like you're not really learning Greek this way, and how he contradicts his own people, contradict themselves in theory. They pay money to take these Greek lessons from a guy who can't hold a job. And but if you monetize your YouTube, they like, oh, you're making money while you're on here. Like, yeah. It's like only a bunch of poor motherfuckers would criticize other people for trying to make any money. It's like only people that can't do it criticize other people for doing it, or if somebody knows their content would be demonetized anyway, because like that's the thing with Babylon is that his fucking show would be demonetized with all the shit that he talks about. There'd be so many, flags and stuff on there. But yeah, but Jesse looks good. I had another one of my other guy, Tyler, but let's see what else we got here. Here's him from the side chest. But yeah, we all talk about Hercules and Achilles, and it seems like everybody's obsessed with Medea. We were going to talk a little bit more about Medea tonight. And it's just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of interesting what people are into. The very same guy that introduced a lot of people to even who Medea was or whatever. A lot of people didn't know what Medea was till they started watching the guy's channel. He said the same thing about his wife in court, saying that his wife was going to kill the kids, poison them. And I was like, oh, sounds like Medea, What do you know? Thought that was interesting. But everybody's they're so against this kind of thing. And it's like, well, back then, they already had these gyms, there's these mosaics of, ancient, well, I have one of ancient Romans, a bunch of women working out in gyms and stuff and participating in some of those different events, which was, it used to be related to war type things like a javelin and a shot put and spear throwing, you know, like that's all war related, athletic events in a way. And but whenever this kind of stuff gets brought up in today's conversation of the Greek world and how it's like, well, you might not want to spend your time, reading every different Greek classic out there. But, a lot of guys, when they're looking like this, they're thinking of all the different, movies or pictures of Achilles and Hercules and all these things that they're all there. Everyone's thinking of the whole Greek god physique and stuff. And I made the joke, it's kind of like Gnostic bodybuilding. But yeah, anyway, this is one of my boys getting ready this weekend. And also, I was going to show you all the eggs that I have. Look at all these flipping eggs. Let me see if it's even showing up. We have a lot of chickens, but we got hit by a tornado recently, so it's been a little uncomfortable. Just so much stuff's been happening. Chickens don't really like laying where they're laying. The boys episode with the wife. Oh, we've had 15 years. Oh, okay. No worries. All right, so let me keep asking. Okay, so what are the main sources? We have Argonautica. We have I forgot the other guy's name. Argonautica by Apollonius of Rhodes. Of course, that's the one. Then you have Euripides. You have Ovid, Metamorphosis. Bibliotheca by Apollodorus. Herodes. Yeah. Anatolian magic rites, Scythian shamanic imagery, pharmakia traditions, outsider ritual specialists. All right, cool. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different sources for Medea. So 5 different stories, if you will. I'll share this page if I can. Let me share this one. Okay. So the big thing that I was talking to Lord Cameron not too long ago about this, was that Medea is different. So if over the course of 1,000 years, give or take, a couple hundred, whatever, let's say 700, 800 years, different authors were writing different interpretations of Medea, right? So would it be wrong if somebody did that today with the same Greek gods, if they wrote continuation stories, changed stuff around a little bit, sort of like Disney and Hercules? Had a slightly different take on Hercules, obviously for several different reasons. But yeah, so is it wrong to do that? And is there anything wrong with people favoring what they turn the character into? Or is it going to be kind of like the same situation when fans write different fiction novels about already existing fiction novels like Harry Potter or Star Wars? All these fan fiction novels that come out, which aren't really part of any of the original stories, but would that be that bad of a thing? I don't think it would be too terrible. After all, I'm doing the same thing with Christianity. So I'm just telling it a different way from the perspective of somebody else, and shouldn't really ruffle too many feathers. If people were to get offended at my book, I can't see them getting too pissed off with all the other things out there. So I could have made it a lot worse if I wanted to, but I didn't. So
Hostile control point nearby.
How do we guard the area with this kid?
I told the guys, I was like, I would just go by it, like just all the time. But at night, just yeah, it might be a move to the trap.
Taking the viewpoint you see away from True Sons will make it a lot harder for them to coordinate their troops and spread misinformation. All communications coming in and out of the building will be controlled from the production studio on the top floor, so you'll need to find it and secure it.
What can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Cool, man.
What is
How you
going
doing?
on, dude? Yeah, I'm just going live. I'm gonna try to go live like all the time around this time, and whoever's free can jump on. Whoever ain't free can watch. Doesn't
Cool.
matter. But yeah, like I said, I paid for this StreamYard for a year, so I'm trying to make Tiger Shark use it too, so someone else will use it.
Yeah. He I hope he was saying something about a couple ideas he had. Hopefully that'll work out.
I think his show will be more popular than mine.
It'll be cool, man. I mean, you get someone kind of goofy like me and someone smart like him, and then we'll get someone
Yes.
wily like you, and like I think it makes it more fun.
There's a lot of drama going on right now, and honestly, the last time I went live, I ended up having a bunch of missed texts from Gnostic Informant. I had let me turn my volume on my phone down. I had a missed call from him, and the title of my video, I guess, was really off-putting because it was Chase and Tiger Shark bring the sources. But it was a little, you know how when you're sitting there trying to make a live, you just think of the title real quick. You're not sure exactly who the hell's even going to jump on, because so many times that I do go live, sometimes you'll go live in a heartbeat, just at the wild hair of your ass, and we'll get the best episode ever. And then sometimes we plan it for a week. We all have things, and it just, you know what it's like being a movie director. Like some days everyone's on it. And they're in the zone, and everyone's personal life isn't in their head all day long, especially your actors who are trying to, be a regular person when they're not on set. And then when it's time to perform, you're getting in that right state of mind to make yourself cry the way you want to get pissed off the way you want to and stuff. And the same thing with podcasting. Like, we're trying to make some kind of show where we're exploring all kinds of ideas, and somehow we ended up having a bunch of agreements on a lot of things, but a different argument altogether when we went live with our boy Gnostic Informant. And it was like, wait a minute, you're arguing the definitions of Neonisco still. We've agreed on that. Yeah, we get it. Yeah, we all know that there's one guy that's a source for a younger one, but then the rest are young men. Yeah, it's a raging majority.
Well, it's like also like that's not, to me, we can agree to disagree on it, right? So like if I'm talking to you and you're like, I think it's a 30-year-old, and I'm like, well, from what I've been looking at, I think it's probably younger. Seems like that doesn't okay. So I don't know.
In,
What's the
in
big
my
deal?
in my book, I made him 17.
Yeah.
Ish.
Okay.
You know, because like who the hell's really counting anyway? You know,
Well,
like but
Yeah. Well, I mean,
we
it's
agreed on
also
that.
and
But
like
then
I
we
don't
had a separate argument where we were
right.
arguing that there were different traditions that involved younger ones. And obviously, it was kind of an escalation of force, if you will. It starts very mild, and you're dressing up, like Mandy said, as soldiers, as actors, doing plays and stuff, all intermixed with this. It's so different than what you see today. There's nothing today that's the same as these kinds of celebrations anymore.
Oh no, they're definitely like wild rights and inside of the context of a culture that is very different from how we understand like interacting with things, like the idea that it'd be normal. I mean, but you see how cultures can be different in places and they normalize certain things that seem strange to us. But yeah, people getting together, doing these rites in a unified way, having specific purpose, taking substances like that. Yeah, I think it's very difficult for us to imagine that. We're very isolated in our lives. We live in our little homes, in our little castles, like we're separate from each other a lot, you know.
At the Roman Empire at its height, but the contemporary version of it, where we don't have much of us now, it's even worse, but we don't have much of a social life anymore at all.
Mhm.
Much less a party environment where thanks Marcel, yeah, his mic is so sensitive, I hear everything usually. But yeah, it's different now. So I think we all actually were agreeing on everything we were saying. I think our boy might have been having more of a argument towards the Amaniscos in general,
Mhm.
and we are just simply, we are the portals to them. If it's if he says it to us, it gets to them. But we were all agreeing on everything because we see whatever a scripture says. Tiger Shark didn't have them all that night because he couldn't get them unlocked. I still can't get Clement of Alexandria to unlock, which I meant to ask Marcel about that, if he'll give me the permissions. Otherwise, I just re-download it a different way. but yeah, these sources, they're super important, absolutely. And then when you have the sources, there's all this poetic interpretation. But there's a lot of disagreements on the interpretation license, the poetic license people are applying to just interpreting what they're reading. We're finding books from contemporary writers that are talking about how whatever you pick up from it is what it is, which is kind of, yeah, it's a little out there.
Relativistic a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like, well, whatever it makes you feel. I do agree with that a little bit, though, and but not that it's right. But I'm just saying, when I listen to a song, I see music videos in my head,
Mhm.
and they'll have people I know in it, or myself, or army stuff, rock and roll music. Sometimes you think of like going out the wire and shooting and shit, you know, whatever. I see music videos in my head, and when you watch the music video that the artist actually puts together, well, it's nothing like what you were thinking, you know. But was my little daydream really wrong? Oh yeah. Maybe if you're not listening to the lyrics at all.
Yeah,
And
okay. I like what
your
you're talking about.
own
Yeah.
brain.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's so, think about songs that don't even have lyrics. What are you thinking about when you hear the song? And when the band goes and makes the music video, was it anything like you were feeling?
Mhm.
Just curious if what was going into making that song, if there's any kind of energy attached to it or whatever. And honestly, there is an experience I had with this band called Polyphia. They put all this stuff that I was seeing in my head in the music video. And I became obsessed with this band after that, because I was like, there's not even lyrics, but it's, this was
Right.
after a couple of years of psilocybin experiences frequently.
Right.
So I was like, this is crazy awesome. And it was probably one of the best shows I'd ever seen in my life when me and my wife went to see it. It was awesome. It was absolutely awesome. So,
Yeah. So I want to, yeah, I like I really like what you're talking about there. That got me
And I'm
sparked.
just I'm rambling a little, but yeah.
Well, okay, so you were talking about, like you don't imagine a music video the way, someone presents it or something like that. Right. That's kind of, when we're living up inside of our heads, like in our thoughts, that's always going to be the case. It's like, but it's not the full, I guess, picture of engaging with reality. And I think that's where those two words of catharsis and gnosis probably come into play, where Tiger and I were talking about how gnosis, the way that they were referring to it before it became an abstract idea of knowledge, of knowing, of someone having some kind of like absolute idea you hold in your head, and that is reality. That came way later, right? And when they were talking about gnosis, they were talking about the actual like physiological change you would go through. And that can happen on small levels neurologically as well. But
Oh yeah.
that, and it would change your behavior patterns. And that's how you would know you know something, right? And that's something actually just embedded in living in general. When you go to bench press or whatever else, how do I know you can bench press? You can talk to me about it all day long. You could listen to a podcast, you could memorize all the right words. You could even become charismatic enough to convince me in the conversation that I think you know something about it. But I'm only
Okay.
going to really understand that you understand it when I see you do it, right?
Yeah.
And that type of knowledge, that ability to apply it in reality, and so it's confirmed on the outside for the rest of us. That's something that I think that's like a very big distinction. And catharsis, on the other hand, is a type of transformation you will have while you're watching something. So I'm showing you something outside of yourself, like images is what we do a lot right now with movies and stuff like that. Or I could do it on stage. What the magician shows you, what the theatrical people show you, and those things are not actually the thing themselves. But when I line those images up, or I line these certain things that are given to you, your body, if it's put together right, will glom onto it, and then you'll unconsciously fill it with your personal experiences. So, like when you're watching a film, um, it's actually kind of a miracle that we all watch the same movie. Like we take, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a easy movie
The
that
Big
everybody's seen.
Lebowski.
Right. Okay. We watched The Big Lebowski, and that's more of like an up in your head, a little bit more intellectual. But we all have, let's say, we all have a general feeling of the absurdity and the comedy in it, and that it's kind of an absurdist view of reality, I guess. Right? Would you say that's probably pretty accurate? That no one would say that's like a serious drama. But
So
if someone were to say that, that would feel kind of strange. And in general, the public agrees
it's a
it's kind of absurd.
comedy,
Mhm.
kind of a dry comedy. Gosh, you had to ask me, right? Where's Mandy Moore?
No,
Um,
well, like if in general, like the general species,
of the
and
movie.
no, our human species in general will watch that movie, and in general, they're going to take away some kind of absurdist view on it. Typically, a really
Yes.
well-made movie you can watch
Yes.
without dialogue and just
There's
the
a
images.
twist, you know.
Yeah, well, the tone and so the fact that that happens when we live in our little black boxes in our heads, and we all have a communal experience like that, or if you watch Last of the Mohicans, or you watch Gangs of New York, or like
They're
or a
both good.
really yeah, like or a really great love story. We have these marketing terms that we use, and we pretend like those terms are disconnected from each other, like they're siloed off things. But the fact that we have labels for those different, we're trying to like identify different sections, and we all universally feel them, even if we don't have the same idea of what exactly we thought the movie meant or something like that. We know it's like a love story, it's a transformation story, it's a story of war and finding oneself. All humans have this universal experience, and it's not due to where you grew up, right? You can, unless you have brain damage or something like that, or there are some examples of really isolated tribes, like where they don't even understand square rooms because their tribe has been evolving in like circular, so they see corners in a room and they freak out. There's some examples where there's some things that are detached, but that's like kind of the magic of catharsis. Because like you said, you have your own personal experience. And I think the issue that we have with postmodernism and relativism is it's really no way to get to reality, and you do end up chasing your own tail, because if you start to think, well, anything can mean anything, that's a problem. Anything can't mean anything if you're building a plane. It just can't, right? Because and why would that matter? Well, the stakes are going to get higher. You have to have you're gonna have people in the plane. You want to
Right.
fly.
That thing has to fly.
Right. So that distinction of reality is like kind of important. And so I think we've entered an era where that catharsis that we have, the power, the magic, the ability, and people can do this, by the way, when they're really good con artists, like or an actor does it, right? But someone who can trick you just being in front of you, and why there's like you see surface level techniques and stuff people use, but really good ones are they're embodying something else. They can get to you, they can change the context of your situation. They can give you permission to do things you might not have ever done. And then they can convince you that it's okay. And you never thought that day you were going to do something crazy like that. Like that ability to influence people comes from
Yep.
like we're more easily able to be moved like that because we live so much more up in our own heads. And we don't distinguish between like the knowledge of like the things outside of ourselves and then the cathartic things that we think in our head. And we think
I've
that
done it
catharsis
too
is
many
reality.
times, bro.
Does
I've
that
done
make
it
sense?
too many. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm the poster child for that shit.
Oh, we
Back in
are.
when I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
in my 20s. Oh my God, dude. I was the biggest piece of shit.
Yeah.
I just had the way I saw the world was
Yeah.
so different than today. Now I might
Right.
still sound the same. My jokes might still kind of come across the same way. I might have a short fuse if enough things are wrong at one time. You know what I mean? Sure. But I'm not the same dude that I used to be.
Right.
As far as how I see the world and how I operate, the way my brain makes decisions and stuff. Besides the surface level characteristics, and yeah, I do not like who I used to be at all.
Right.
And it was all those things, manipulative. It's being in sales.
Oh, sure,
And
sure.
in sales, I would take people on tours and fake a Hispanic accent the whole goddamn hour. I'd put on glasses, and my other buddies would be laughing their ass off just because, like, I didn't wear glasses. The stupidest little shit. Like,
Right.
I faked all kinds of different accents to see if I could get away with it.
Yeah. And
These motherfuckers joined the gym.
Yeah.
So you got to think about that.
Yeah.
Like, if you see them, you either have to tell them, "Hey, I was just messing with you. I'm American." They're like, "Oh my God, you totally fooled me," or whatever. Or like you never see them again.
Mhm.
And then one day you're in Kroger in the milk aisle and you see him and you're like, do I fake it again? Or do I tell him for one?
Well,
I
careful.
haven't seen the motherfucker in a year, but he
You went-
he never
yeah.
forgot me.
You wear a mask too long, it actually becomes molded to your face.
We would
But
do it all the time. My buddy
Yeah.
Donnie, oh my God, Donnie, he had people convinced he was worked for Notre Dame.
hello?
What'd you say?
I didn't know. I don't know. Something cut off.
I heard Marcel
I
was
said I've definitely molded a few masks to my face in my day for sure. I've definitely glued a few masks right to my face, man. It took a long time.
I'm a much more like
Uh,
all the things you're supposed to be. I'm just
Mhm.
more of them now. I don't
Right.
do anything that's nothing that anybody could, would probably strike or anything, but definitely nothing that even I think is wrong,
Right.
because like when you're 25, you don't give a shit.
Right. Well, so all of those things, all of those buttons that cause that, and we don't have a handle on all of them by any means, but we have a handle on quite a few. That is what allows people to develop skills, whether they know it or not, to make a film or to write a story or anything, right? Those physiological buttons are in your physiology because you are human. And we have those as survival mechanisms for whatever reasons of surviving the bottleneck, right? So I will use film because it's a lot more simplistic to think about it.
Yeah,
A
that's
horror
your
movie. Yeah, yeah. Oh, I mean, it is. I see it in everything, but it is a lot easier because we all watch films. We all are consumers of media and technology. A horror film is going to look a certain way because that way is unconsciously putting your body, your nervous system into a certain mood,
You're
right?
there. Yeah.
Yes. And if it doesn't aesthetically match up, not just the performance, not just the writing, when those abstract images that are created or those sequences, they're all shot at different times. They're typically not shot in sequence unless someone's doing an experimental thing. It's not with the real people. Nothing is real at all on the screen that you are seeing. But when it's placed in a certain way, you go in there, and if it's a good movie, you're just in it with the characters. You don't even really realize you're hypnotized, right? It's not a bad thing, but that is what creates that, right? And then you fill in the gaps between the sequences and the edits and the frames. They've done such a good job that they're directing where you're going to kind of fill in the gaps in general. This person goes here, he need to rescue his daughter, this happens to him, and this happens to them. You don't watch the entire sequence play out in real time. You're not watching them take a shit and then watching them go to their mailbox and then watching them sit and cry for a little bit, and then they get pumped up for the day, and then they go to that that moment in the day. You see the highlight reel, and you also only see the moments that matter to the story that you're watching. So you're watching that arc. You're not watching their entire life. Otherwise, it's not real life, right? But
Love
anyway,
the social media because of that. I was
yeah,
like, no more Instagram because I'm either trying to look cooler than I am, or I'm showing an emotion I don't want to show people anyway.
right,
So
yeah,
it's like, let me post another picture so I can feel good about myself. And here's another side tricep that you've seen 20,000 of in the
right.
last ever. You scroll down, there's more. You're like, I don't know. I had to stop doing stuff like that because I felt like it was making me become. It was like making me become something
Yeah.
that I didn't know. I didn't have like how everyone was going to perceive it. I had no clue.
Hey, let
Right.
me jump in on that real
Yeah.
quick.
You got it.
So,
Yeah, totally.
what you guys are describing is exactly how I see people in these communities because they're limiting themselves to data and information. And so, like, if you take a Christian, the very top, they're using the Bible and maybe a few other books that are around the Bible, the Apocrypha or whatever. But that's their LLM, that's their large language model, right? That they're operating out of. They reject everything else. And so it's a very small slice of quote unquote history that they call, right? And then you get some of the YouTubers that read a few more things, and then that becomes their LLM, but they're missing all of this other text for the same reasons that the Christians don't want to read them or reject them themselves. But did you know that Augustus in Rome burned over 2,000 magical scrolls that were very similar to the PGM and PDM? 2,000 himself. Diocletian later, 330 AD. He also destroyed a bunch of magical scrolls as well with very similar PGM style rituals on it.
What was his
And
name?
others in the Roman Empire. So they're destroying all of these PGM style texts. They are the prevailing religion in the entire Western Hemisphere. And people tend to just want to glaze over them like Morton Smith was just some wacko that had the secret gospel of Mark that's questionable, and they want to write him off. Then you get to the part that's all about the sexual connotations with Jesus and the Neoniscos. And you have people like Jennings Jr. that write about that in particular, and Bentham as well, and others. And so and since then, there's been plenty more that have also taken up that position. And if you actually read their literature and their works, they go through a methodology as to why it's either that or they marry it to the ritual. There is more scholarship on the aspect of Mark 1450, 49 through 51 and Mark 16:5 as being a ritual than anything else, like literally. And there's a bunch of other ones too, but there's a lot more
I
scholarship.
would agree.
with
I'd
that.
agree.
With-
It's some kind of ritual for sure.
Yeah, and so you can sit there and say, well, I don't agree with them, and that's fine. But my whole premise of that show that we went on with Gnostic isn't to tell me being a filter for these scholars. All I'm doing is saying, you go read this
right.
shit on your own.
Well,
Thanks to
YouTube,
Marcel, I was able to get a lot of those books. You know, he getting them for me papers.
I can't get
Um,
Clement of Alexandria to open. That's the I
Yeah,
got Jesus.
oh, we
but
have
I
that
don't
one.
have the
We'll
other
send
I'll
it to
send
you.
it to you. I just send it to you.
one.
Yeah. He has it, and in there, that one, Clement of Alexandria is Jonathan C. Smith, and this is the other funny thing. Gnostic informant on that show tried to say, well, Morton Smith, it's questionable. When I brought up Jonathan Z. Smith, he tried to make it sound like this guy was a much more polished scholar. They were colleagues. They traded grad students back and forth to each other. So, like, you make no
Mandy
sense when you're
brought it.
trying to say,
Y'all have talked about him before, like a year ago. It's just been the show's been going on so long that you have to either talk about it again because nobody kept up with the old stuff.
well,
that
they
they're
rejected. They
doing.
rejected data.
So Morton, y'all talked about Morton Smith a while ago, and that was kind of because I was like, okay, well, who else is spinning the same kind of stuff? There's got to be more than one person, right? Like it can't just be thin air type of thing. Because that was the thing in the beginning when you're like, oh, I've never really heard this take on it because, you know, I'm only so old, haven't read it all yet, and didn't ever really get introduced to it the right way. I mean, I started at YouTube with some AI songs, and it turned into like this whole show and stuff, you know. And I think it's awesome, but I definitely haven't been doing it enough. But y'all mentioned Morton Smith a long time ago, and I never even looked at the text or anything. I was just like, oh, okay, yeah. So it's another Purple Jesus, Big Lebowski situation. Just another, you know. That's where we've said that was kind of the beginning stuff on the show was from the PowerPoints was saying that philosophy majors, well, you know, or people that have had some education in this have read a lot of these different materials, don't even really know all their names, but they're putting these jokes in movies where there's a purple Jesus drug dealer type who's real flamboyant and he's the best around. He's the superstar, you know.
Well,
He's knocking them down, and yeah, it's and so we were like, Morton Smith came up. I think Tiger, Mandy, one of y'all brought him up, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. So that's going to be some sources that kind of look at it like that. And then one day, and I couldn't find it, and I could be wrong, and I'm not starting any wars, but like, what the fuck else we going to talk about? I went to Gnostic's channel to find the video with Jennifer Bird, the man that Jesus loved. It was a title, but they weren't, I don't know if they were talking about, I can't remember now if they were talking about Jennings Jr., which Tiger Shark brought on the last episode just to show what it said. Like it was the, you know, like that's all he was doing. And I was like, oh shit, I never even read that about the Centurion. I was like, oh, I never even heard anybody talk about that part. You know, I was like,
there's a book I gotta send you that's even better than that, Witch Doctor, and it has nothing to do with that conversation, but it does have to do with
I don't put this stuff.
let's just call it what it is. It's called pederasty in the Greco-Roman world, and how a lot of the ancient writers wrote about a bunch of them, and literally all of these guys that run around, Gnostic, Myth Vision, all of their favorite Greek philosophers, they were writing about Achilles and other people being in these relationships, and there's a political reason as to why these things existed. Actually, they wanted to use it as population control, and then it spread from one city state to another.
Do you think the contemporary argument is just they're trying to say that it wasn't nearly as much as the pseudo-theological group is saying, that it was rampant? Like we're saying the ancient drugs and that kind of stuff was extremely common. And then we have another group of people saying, no, not all the time. And it's like, yeah, for sure, not all the time.
Well, they don't have data. They don't have data for that. And I would say that we keep finding more. Like there is a paper that I was telling you guys about today that's right now being published.
Topic.
But it was 5,000 BCE, and I was telling Marcel about it. They found a Roman, well, not Roman, but 4,500 years before the Romans existed. They found a hot spring in modern day Italy where they've looked in the sediments, and they're now finding henbane seeds with ephedra and opium. And so these guys can keep saying that
So much
They
time.
can keep saying that's baptism, right? And when Amen says that baptism is a traditional drug purification ritual, well, there's clear evidence for it. And this
Totally.
paper, this came
I
out
think
January
it's
this year.
majority vote yes now on that.
Yeah,
Sure.
so they can keep denying it. The problem is that they're still going to go up against, and I don't even care. Like, people go,
We're all
well,
friends with
Amen,
Christians. It kind of makes it
Amen's
weird
wrong
to talk
because
about.
Jesus wasn't even a real person. Who cares if he
Oh, that's
wasn't a
true
real
too.
person?
Yeah,
This is what they wrote about.
that's why this is a story about like one of 100 that we're probably saying the same fucking thing, or it's just an archetypal story written from the right writers. That's it. It had to be the right writers. We're talking about the Coen brothers at the time for it to ever last and to ever get anywhere. Not the Coen brothers really, but like, yeah, I'm not saying it's a play, but it's being written. It's being written to be read. That's for goddamn sure. It's just being read to somebody.
You have
They're
you
not
have
just putting it on the
psychedelics.
shelf, you know, like
You have psychedelics found at holy high places, altars all over the Levant,
they're every
all over
single one.
Anatolia, all
They
over
started
Western, everywhere. So how are
they
you
just
going to
started
deny that
disappearing
that's
in some
happening?
places. Some places were like not doing that anymore, or some people, some religions. It seems like they just weren't letting the people underneath the clergy do it. You had all the
Yes,
special
yes,
bread the priest could have. It's like, well, what the hell do you think that means?
Well,
They
yeah.
fucking
yeah.
wipe their ass with it? No.
So I think there's like a really important, like, I guess, building block or fundamental like lens cracked open, that people have spoken about before. But the work of Amon is is ramming straight through, and I don't know. I think blasting a hole that is irreparable. Is that there was a clear time, where a lot of this stuff was kept from, guarded, slash whatever you want to call it, uh,
You
from
didn't
people. And
broadcast it,
so,
you know.
no, well, what I mean by that is the fundamental theory, the theories that people are bringing now, the interpretations that people are bringing now, even if they get very advanced in their linguistic English language or whatever else, are based on what the New King James Version gave us. Our English is based on New King James, dude. Our definition of words, how our language works, all of that, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah,
that
we
is
read
a
it.
huge problem. That is a huge problem. I mean, the fact that we are even using our language now to pretend that our language is comparable and we understand what they were saying because we've translated into how our language works, and then we interpret it in our
So
minds and feel it. To assume that we even understand that and that we can just say it and that we just know, I think is a huge missing point. And that's why typically like no one really ever takes a full position on it, or they can spin off into relativism because they're still unconsciously operating as if language is abstract, because our language is shitty. Their language was not, and it goes back all the way into the Bronze Age. And
we're a little Frankenstein language now.
well, I mean,
Where,
it's even
we got
yeah. But
Latin, Greek,
Yeah,
French,
no,
Danish.
well, like our letters are abstract, dude. Like they don't, when they are lined up, there's no way for you to tell what that word means based on those letters. When we have a sentence structure, there's no way
Not
to
all of
tell.
them. Not all. Of them.
No, but I'm telling you, ancient Greek worked a whole lot differently, and it worked like that for a very long time until this one specific period that was
Oh,
is quite long. Like
I
it
see what you're
wasn't
saying.
immediate. You know,
Ancient Greek builds, so you can. I take the Duolingo Greek, and you can you can figure out what it. You can read it day one. You could
well,
because it builds. I don't know how to describe it.
well, okay, so yeah, well, first, it's clear that you guys understand. Like, so I think Tiger Shark, you're with me on this. That like that we start having a conversation, and you're like, let's just make up a fake hypothetical. Well, it says here that Jesus rode on a dragon, and then we're gonna have a conversation about whether he rode on a dragon or not, right? So I'm now the non-believer, you're the believer, and now we're gonna start arguing about that. That's operating under the assumption, the context of the argument, that he rode a dragon at all, and that's what that says, right? And so it's a false dialectic right at the get, right? And so, and then we keep building theories on top of it. Actually, the dragon was a metaphor for this, and it was actually a parable. When he pulled the dragon's horn back, that meant that that's what you pull back on life when you're going through things. And then Nietzsche comes along, and then everyone else comes, and that's kind of, I think, where we're at. We're starting to just like look back, and it's starting to get pieced together, likely because technology has allowed us to amalgamate all this stuff and line it up. No longer is someone taking 10 years to translate one book and have to go across all the, try to find lost copies of things. And this image, these like this past is coming back to us in some kind of weird way, where we've been wrong about that fundamental argument, and we've been sitting here, and people have been sitting and debating and philosophizing for God knows how long. I mean, technology is increasing, right? As we go through like an evidence-based like gadgetry force multiplier thing, so that's happening. But on the thinking side, or the human side, or the living side, we're sitting here arguing about this stuff, thinking that we're going to argue ourselves and debate ourselves and think ourselves into some fucking answer that will solve things, or that will, now I got the answer. That's how you live.
Okay, but
What
Case,
the,
tie
what are we
that back
talking
into
about?
tie that back into your original argument, which was gnosis.
Oh, yes,
Because
yes, yes. Yeah.
gnosis is actually, as Carl Jung said it, the age of reason, becoming awake, awakening. That only happens once, the state of gnosis. Not this little definition of, oh, I just learned weird trivial facts and that's gnosis. That's not what gnosis is.
No.
Gnosis is an experience, which is what you're talking about, which is what the church and all these others did when they destroyed all these magical texts. But with that magic, they also burned and lost a lot of that plant medicine. And some tried to keep it alive throughout the Middle Ages, and they got burned at the stake as well. But that's really what the battle has always been. It's always been against the plant medicine itself.
Yeah, but do you see you see how, like, so I mean, I'd be interested into forcing people to take a position, not because it's about right or wrong. I could give a shit about anybody's ego and their little diapers they're wearing about. I don't want to be wrong. I'm wrong all the time, dude. Like I don't care. I don't even really feel like I'm some kind of entity that is singular or anything like that. I mean, I just, from my life experiences, but, and I'm not trying to say that in some kind of like, I'm not above anybody either. I'm not smart. I'm not anything, right? I'm just interested in exploring this stuff, right? So like, but the fact that like, I want to know, like, are you telling me that these texts that influence the globe, that have had so much power, have been guarded, and people have been slaughtered by the fucking millions in order to protect them, that power forces like kingdoms have put their people through immense suffering and torture, where kings have ripped people out of their tribal rights to watch them give birth and put them on their backs because they wanted to see it. Where like all of this stuff has happened in the name of this stuff, and maybe there's some good stuff too. So I'm just saying it's a huge influential force. This is not some kind of stuff where these people had this hidden knowledge, and that hidden knowledge was the kingdoms inside. I'm sorry. That's what you think your ancestors built civilization with? That's what you think help people survive in this world and like come up with these incredible talents and skills and ideas? That's just the baseline beginning, I think, in realizing something pretty epic. So if that's all these parables mean, if that's all that Jesus was saying, I got news for everybody. He ain't too bright, because there's a lot of people saying that shit. And it goes back even farther. If you were saying like, hey man, you're not really a singular self, you're kind of this amazing force moving through space time. There's all these writers talking about insane stuff, man. So that I want to know that position. Is that what you really think? That's what you think all of this influential work is all just about? And if so, let me show you something. And one of the things you can first start showing is how the language works. And if you want to do the butterfly thing, why that to me, unfortunately, is not only working. Is not only incorrect, it's working to actually be almost like a joke that someone who was probably from antiquity would say to us about our language. They would make fun of how stupid we are. Look at your words. The butter that flies, butterfly. You idiots. Your language does not work at all. It's not connected to reality at all. Theirs was and it was not reality. They knew their language wasn't reality. It was a connection of sounds and
Wait, wait.
symbols.
Let Marcel say something on that. Marcel, what was Gnostic saying that word was?
Oh, oh my God! So he was treating Neonistos as an exocentric compound bird, which means that like the meaning of the compound is outside the word itself. And like an incentric compound is when two words are combined, it would be like dark room. The meaning of the word is in the word dark room. But like if you were an exocentric compound would be like if you were to call someone a redhead. So you're calling a person something as a descriptive word of a person, which means the definition is outside the word redhead because you're describing a person. So he was treating Neonistos as an exocentric compound. But what I'm trying to get at here is I just don't think that like any language is purely analytical or embodied. These two things coexist together always, and it just depends on how much of which one is focused on throughout different eras of time. Greek isn't some magical language. It's just better at embodying things than every other language, man. It's ludicrous in my opinion. Like,
Right.
Yeah, and that word is not used in that way either. I'm not even a Greek speaker, but anybody can look that up. I mean, the way he was using it, that's why the joke is there, and it's probably going to be around forever.
Yeah, he's
Right, but
he's right to think it was a compound word. But I was just trying to point out why he was using that example, because by knowing why he's doing it that way, you could then use linguistic science to prove him he's wrong instead of just laughing at him and calling him an idiot. You know, you beat the guy with actual facts instead of just calling him stupid. Like you just, I don't know.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
I just don't agree that no other language besides Greek can be a form of embodied language. Like it's
no,
just,
yes, no, you're right there. But we've lost many of them. Like the Native Americans' language is gone, like, or it's diminished, or we've lost so much.
We've lost the. It's like losing the connection to nature. It's not like it's gone. We've just forgotten how to do it.
Yes, I agree with that. 100%. Words, yeah, we're they're tools. It's a technology. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not lost. We've just forgotten how to do it. It's still there. We just need to remember.
The plants and fungi are still there, but the people using them is something that's diminished, right?
Right. But what I would say is that ancient Greek did. I'm echoing in someone's thing. That's okay. Sorry, it just like makes me feel insane. It is the most it has the most work. It was the most like it preserved knowledge when a group groups in that region, nations, whatever, when it was forming, that they kept it as a record to pass down to future generations. And it was the longest slipstream, whatever that is. And I don't even like calling it ancient Greek after a certain point because it disappears into the Bronze Age or whatever happened there. But it's functional. And if you and me, if we were all born somewhere, like, and we weren't taught language as like a group of people, and we started making mouth noises to try to communicate to each other because I'm not inside your head, you're not inside mine, but we got to work together and we got to make sure I'm clear on certain things. I mean, I need to make sure you tie that arrowhead on right, because if it doesn't fly right, we don't eat, or maybe I get injured or something like that. The more functional your language is, the more complex it is to describe even emotions and feelings and forces and things that are affecting us, all the context of our environment, the more advanced I will be able to become, and also communicate and work together and bind together like that. So if your language is abstract, like you're subjected to a type of like who defines that for you, who defines those parameters, tells you what things mean. And then it also like isn't really like it's just not flowing really well. So like it does make sense that like when the scientific community and naming animals and naming other things, that they understand a little bit about ancient Greek or something, or Greek in general, or something like the way the words work, because they can see how someone coined a term and it describes not the whole thing, but it basically points you in the direction, points at the moon you need to look at, that's trying to tell you, hey, there's a moon over there, and I just noticed it has a furry hat on or something, like what you do with an animal. Like, hey, this is this is like these little ant things we call ants, and then it does this other thing. Isn't that crazy? Like, so like our English doesn't work like that, right? And it's a problem, and we don't see the difference.
Looking at a language is abstract. It's just the perspective of how you're looking at it. It's just one. That's just one way of viewing the language. All languages can be abstract, or all languages can be embodied. And the complexity of the language doesn't really fucking mean anything because it's how useful are the words to you. Complexity doesn't make something more useful or not. It's how well it serves you in the time for what you're doing.
Okay, let me do. I'll serve you up one better. The word. Okay, turn the echo off real quick.
Which is analytical thought. Like, how can you say Greek wasn't an analytical language when they were like they're like still the most quoted philosophers today, which is analytical thought.
Can you Mike mute? Oh, thank you. Sorry, Marcel. Yeah,
his mic picks up his speakers as well. It's so sensitive.
Oh, they're separate. The speakers are separate. That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, it's a time delay. It's physics. Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying, right? Yeah, we can go down that rabbit hole of trying to like conceptualize how everything's kind of abstract. You can get into a kind of a relativistic game. The clock's ticking. We got short lifespans here, and there's things to be done. So if we go to, well, it's all abstract and nothing means anything and it doesn't matter. That's very dysfunctional for when I need to get things done, prepare for the next season, prepare for barbarians, whatever it is I need to do as a human, like the good and the bad and everything like that. And a really, really important distinction, right? When I say that our words come from the definitions of this particular belief system and they've defined them, the word faith is one of my favorite examples because how that word was used before that, and it is a pivotal word. It's a very important word, right? And how it's used right now is to define something, an outer authority outside of yourself that you don't need evidence to believe in. Now, conceptually, I want you to think of that. And then it's supposed to be really important, right? That's wild, right? When the difference is something that I'm probably going to butcher it a little bit, but something in general you would expect to happen because you've experienced it before and you understand something about the nature of reality around you. Like a cloud, I have faith that the cloud's going to form when the temperature's at a certain thing and the dew is at a certain dew point. I'm using all these words to describe it, but I have faith that this is the process that's going to happen. I have faith that I'm going to age and die. I have and then if I have that word, faith is important. Why? Because then I can start making plans and I can start preparing for certain things, or I can start training for certain things, or I can start doing things to protect because I'm trying to see what's happening in reality and I can survive and thrive better. Right. So when you take in really important pivotal words like that are really important, and then I put something in there like that, that's going to change how you think about anything. It's going to change how your navigation system works, how you approach things. It's the same thing with truth, right? It's the same thing with gnosis. It's the same thing. Like if we thought knowledge, the actual knowledge of things. Now, people that are in the reality of any field that they're in know that the reality is if you don't do it and you can't show it, your understanding of anything is little to none. You want to talk to me about how good you are at running and how much you know about running, and you know about that, and that's fine, but you can't run. What use are you? Like, what are you talking about? Like this, I mean, you can pass knowledge on. That's great. I'm glad you're setting frameworks up for people who want to start running, and then maybe they can take some tips from the past and try to apply them and then do their own. But how they figure out how they run, how they figure out how they run correctly is going to be based on their experience, engaging it, failing, and as a trauma machine, bouncing back in different ways. So the better my language is attached to those parameters that actually are closer to the physics of things, the better the civilization is likely to be, the more effective I'm likely to be. I'm not going to be wasting my time on a lot of different confusions and relativistic debates online, anything like that. I'm going to go start getting good at the things I want to get good at, or start trying to create the things that I want to give, as opposed to just think about it.
Yeah, Chase, you're right. But the thing is they had embedded in their religion a boundary dissolving, central chemical, pharmacopoeia.
Oh, absolutely,
That
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
that was the tool that they used in order to dismantle a lot of these
Yes,
philosophical debates.
yes.
I mean, you just described induction, which is Aristotelian logic, deduction,
Hmm.
induction. It's just probability theory. And so when you say faith, I'm going to wake up and it's going to be sunny out like it was yesterday. That's
Hmm.
just called induction. It's probabilistic. If I hit a pond of water with a rock, it's going to make a splash. If I do it 1,000 times, I expect on the 1,001st time it's going to do the same thing. But
Hmm.
that's just probability theory, right? Things that can shatter these views that man has
Yes,
are these substances, but also the way that they did these substances.
yes.
And the thing that the Greeks did well, where they incorporated other cultures very well. We already talked about the Cypriots and the language, how it influenced the Greek, but there's even more that influenced that older stuff. The rituals are so, people don't really even understand ritual or even the drug use. They
Right.
just go, well, in the Minoan culture, linear A, we can't read it yet. It's not, it's not the same things. Yeah, we get all that, but if you look at the actual opium that they were doing in the caves there on
Yes,
Crete, it was a singular substance.
yes.
Now think of how stupid that sounds.
Yeah.
Every other place, even before then, 2,000 years before that, we're finding hot springs with a drug cocktail.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
they're just doing opium. That's it,
Yeah.
a singular substance.
Yeah.
So somewhere along the line, even back then in the ancient cultures, things were lost.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah.
the underlying truth is that once man and human finds that source back to awakening, to gnosis,
Mhm.
to understanding and experiencing that, that's when you get all these cool things that happen.
Mhm.
It's when you get that taken away that people formulate these positions that bolster their narcissism, that they want to be in control. They form these schools of philosophy that all funnel up into monotheistic views. And then that's when everything else gets lost. And
Mhm.
that's where the language gets dumb. And that's where everything else gets stupid and put under the one agenda. It's always been a drug war. I mean, even today it is, but even back then it was. It was literally a designer drug war. And you
Mhm.
can look at it. I mean, we have the physical hard evidence for it. And the ones that were better at it were the ones with doing all the cool shit. And they were
Mhm.
shattering their egos on a daily fucking basis.
Mhm. What, like, so you know the word, you mentioned the word ritual. Um, so when you say ritual, like, what are you, what is like your baseline, I guess, uh, concept of that when you use that word? Like in general, not
Well,
like, I'm not asking for an
ritual
answer.
doesn't ritual doesn't have to be necessarily drug related. It could be making an idol. There's idol uh rituals that are in the PGM, right?
Mhm.
So I would say that it's more an incantation and invocation. It's somebody that's doing an activity, whatever that is, in order to fulfill something, to
Correct.
have
Yeah.
a goal, to do something. And they do it usually in the name of XYZ or through a god or a goddess, that sort of thing.
Right. It's not a noun. In the way that I think we like operate and speak with about it. It is the behavior patterns that you would do that evoke a specific mood. And that specific mood is the goal or the God or whatever you want to call it. And when you do these patterns, not like when I tell you what these patterns are, and then you do them, you have some kind of similar experience, but it's your experience. It's not exactly the same. But like, so when most people use the word ritual, though, when they're talking about it, when they're debating it, when they're whatever, they're thinking some kind of hocus pocus, or they're thinking someone again put flowers on, you see it in our cinema, like someone put some flowers or some meat on a, I don't know, like a offering thing, and they burned it, and then that was the god coming to them, the power and stuff like that. If you think that's what these people were doing that built these incredible civilizations, statues, and just it's staggering some of the stuff they were doing. If you think that's what they were doing, that they were just like, I don't know, like putting a stuffed animal somewhere and then imagining and thinking real hard for the God force to come to them, Like, what are we talking about? Why, you know what I'm saying? Like, why would you think that that's where like all of this important stuff comes from? So I think I guess I'm trying to circle is like, I agree with everything what you're saying, but the tool we have right now that unlocks a lot of this stuff was carried through that language. And so it might help us get back, but it is not like some kind of absolute, or it's not some kind of answer to anything like that. But the fact that it's had this large of effect on us, that I can do things in plain sight and you can't recognize them in your like common sense because you're not engaging with reality, because your whole reality is based on building blocks of a language that is totally abstract and disconnected, right? That like when you're navigating as a human, it's going to be difficult. Like if you were taught that in school, hey, rituals are a certain thing to do the evoke a pattern. Well, why does that happen? Well, because you're a physiological being, because chemicals drop in your body when you see the sun, when you mirror other people's body patterns, you bond and connect with them, and drugs are getting released. When you're eating food, drugs are getting, like, what you want to call them, drugs, you want to call them different chemicals, and those can create these crazy super effects. And sometimes they recharge us. Sometimes they turn us into people that can lift up cars. Sometimes like it motivates us to do things and stuff like that, right? That's why what muscle memory is a thing, or like why, hey man, be disciplined, wake up every morning and do this thing. Your physiology will actually start to change a little bit. That is a ritual. That is the power of it. Now imagine like a language that contains the directions or symbolic directions or symbolic connection to things that are close to reality, which I do believe a lot of native languages that we've lost. And you notice like that those things always just try to get snuffed out in recent time, but that
why do
they're,
you think English can't do that? Like, why do you think English can't be opposite?
you have to look, I don't know if it can, it could evolve into that, but if you look at how it works, there's a reason the Pythagoreans could speak in math and we had to make outside symbols that are very difficult to learn. And it's why mathematicians, like, I think, are different types of humans when they can just intuitively understand it. And we kind of think they're strange. But plus and minus, think about it, dude. Plus and minus, they don't even need it.
Yeah, I was very good at math. I'm not trying to say you're wrong here. Like, it's just the way you're delivering your message feels very black and white and dichotomous. And what I'm trying to say is, to me, it's like yin and yang. Like embodiment and analytical are like the yin and yang of a language. They coexist in all language, and it's up to us to find that yin and yang in the language. Does that make more sense? Like, I don't
Sure,
think the language
sure.
is one or the other. I think embodiment and analytical exists in how we choose to perceive and utilize the language. We have to
Yeah,
go
but your language is connected. Your connect is the way your language works affects your neural pathways. Like your linear thought pattern of how you think reality works is from linear language, subject, action,
Hey,
object.
let me help
Yeah.
you out by giving a good example of this actually. So recently, and this is scientific, Marcel, but you know Plato's forms that he talks about, right?
yeah, yeah.
Plato's forms. So we're finding Dr. Levin, Michael Levin, leading microbiologist, is finding through his actual his biochemical research with actual organisms that life exists outside of the body, and that he calls that Plato's forms, and that Plato understood that, and part of that was translated through the language itself. So I think that style of complex information that we're now just rediscovering now, literally with scientific experiments, and them themselves, these scientists saying these are Plato's forms, this is exactly what he was talking about, and that consciousness exists, your consciousness exists outside of your body, which is what a lot of these goddess and gods are all about, right? The transversality, liminality, you're crossing over that boundary. You do it when you're on a DMT trip, you do it when you're in these ritual spaces. This is why Aristotle, I was throwing this around the other day, but Aristotle was said to himself carry a wand around. And Chase, there is a good book that I have,
Yeah.
because
Go for it.
magic is as goofy as some people are with this magic stuff and more Harry Potter like. There is a form of magic that is vocal, and there is a form
Yeah.
of magic that
course.
is imagery. And so I'm not saying that I do it. but there's certainly people that not only do it now, but have done it in the ancient past as well. And so there's a lot of different forms of that people do and practice and have practiced. But I think all of that activity was still driven by the fact that they were having these out of body experiences into the void space, bringing those back into the everyday mundane world of materialism that we all live in, right? The material world. And they were just trying to communicate that with each other. But you had an open dialogue of communication, even if the rituals and the cultures were different, they still shared those. So like when the Cypriots brought the opium to the Levant or to Greece or to Egypt, they also traded their religion to them.
Mhm.
We know that because they
Of course.
started burying the fucking Cypriot opium vessels with their dead people in
Mhm.
a funerary, fashion. And so they adopted other religions and they brought it into the fold via these vehicles that were getting them into the afterlife or having these, trips that were making them divine that other writers and ancient writers have written about. And so I think that's where we need to get back to. I'm not saying that it has to be following a PGM style, but even in there, like if somebody really wanted to attack, there is a way to attack people like Amun, right? Because Amun's he's going down a path, and I'm not saying I'm doing this. I'm just saying if you were a smart person and you actually read all of these texts, you could actually have a debate with him about it in a smart way. So in the PGM, there are actual rituals that don't involve any virgin boys at all. It says that you don't need one. You can do this by yourself. You don't need to have one to do it. And so that you could take that angle and say, well, he's saying that they did it there and yada yada yada. But I mean, that's really one way to try to do that. But it doesn't take away from the fact that you have all of these other scholars saying that what was happening in Mark 14 and Mark 16 was definitely a ritual that mimics a PGM. There's a bunch of them saying this, and then you have a few of them saying that it was in this sexualized format, right? And then Amen reading some of the Greek sources that nobody else has read, really, because Galen has so many damn books, where he's finding a lot of these things and tying it back in. So really, it's hard to debate somebody like that because one, these guys aren't really reading it, and they're going, "Well, where is it? Where is it?" Well, he does pull them up, and the people that follow him all the time, they have those sources. They send them to me sometimes, and I don't even ask. And then I look it up, and I'm like, sure enough, there's lace days in the format of a slave trader. And what do they do with the slaves? We already know what they all do with the slaves. You know, I mean, that's if you don't know they do that with slaves. If you think they just took the slaves and made them work or something, like no, they were doing the deeds, right? They were doing the nasties with them. We all know that.
Yeah.
So,
And
A lot of magic too is creating your own ritual. But that's what a lot of like Wiccans and witches and stuff today, they create their own altar. They create their own incense that they burn that suits them. They create personalized rituals that work for them because ritual and magic is a personalized thing. It like at least that's how it's embodied today, you know. Right? It's just that back then people you had to go to the guy down the road because people didn't understand how to make their own rituals. That's why they had the PGM because it was like a quick way to get the PGM is like quick rituals that you can go to and get done in like fucking 25 minutes instead of having to go to the other guy who takes 6 hours to get a ritual done. You know?
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like a lot. It's like a quick. It's like the
Well,
quick.
I think you know what I think it was, Marcel, to be honest with you. It was a little bit of that, but it was also, and we see it in other rituals, like the one from way later from like Saint Hildegard, where she's literally doing this ritual and she's doing this prayer and she's doing mandrake and she's going into this divine state. But she also mentions in there for like I would imagine the poor class, the people that can't get mandrake's a weed anyway, but let's say you're just somewhere and you don't have mandrake. She literally says, like, if you don't have mandrake, you can substitute beech tree in there. But beech tree is not psychoactive. So they were still doing these rituals. Like, imagine if you're somebody that just came across somebody like doing this shit and they're like not doing mandrake and they're just using some fucking log. You know, you're gonna be like,
Yeah.
what is wrong with this
Look,
guy?
and
But
that's the
That's not the right stuff.
it's about personalizing the ritual to you because it gets back to what Chase was saying about faith. It's faith in the ritual that you're doing that embodies the action to cause a thing into you. It's nothing to do with the language. It has to do with what the fuck you believe.
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
exactly.
but that, yeah, but
You can
what the language,
And
what that language,
I'm not trying to say you're wrong by any means. I'm not trying to say you're wrong.
I'm not in the wrong or right.
Yeah,
I'm not in that kind of dimension, I think.
yeah,
Well, so like, I'm trying to think of like a concrete example
yeah,
of how we really don't fully grasp like the ability of that. Like, okay, so since we exist in our black boxes to a degree, like our cognition is like a little flashlight, and we have limited perspective. If I'm trying, if I want to, I don't know, let's see, I'm trying to think of a really good example. Like, you know how like how people like the idea though that we understand or know anything, and and we can feel safe in that by by again saying the right things, believing the right things, right, and then we're okay. We don't have to take action, right?
yeah,
And a lot of these people, right, that like we're talking, I don't know, Aristotle. I'm trying to get some names here because I can't think of it. Heraclitus, Plato. I mean, we're all talking. They're all talking about observing actions and outcomes and patterns and consequences, not the persuasive speech. What does the thing actually do? So if your language is
yeah,
more in tune with that, when you come to tell me some bullshit,
yeah,
like yours, I call you a sophist, right? Or something like that. How do I know though? Well, because I'm in
yeah,
tune with nature, my body, with reality. And if I can get you to think in the opposite direction, I can convince you of almost anything. I can run around in circles in your head and you can think you understand how a plane flies, but you don't know a damn thing, right? Does that make sense? Like, and it's
yeah,
like that with a lot of things. It's so
I
if you're,
think I think why I'm having so much trouble really grasping this is because I've
Mhm,
been playing music since I was 4. I've been playing
mhm,
music since as long as I've been learning how to talk. And
mhm.
I think in music sometimes. And then I have to
Yeah,
translate that music into words. And then I have
yes,
to work and so like I'm all like for me I'm always embodying language. I don't understand how to not really embody language because I'm always thinking musically. Does that
right.
does that make sense? Which is why
Yes.
I don't understand how to like not do that. Like I don't understand
Oh
how to not.
yeah, yeah. No, no. We
Yeah,
like
yeah. I just don't.
you.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I see what you're. I think I see what you're talking about, and we're all like that. You cannot right now stop understanding what I'm saying. Isn't that weird? Does anyone ever
Yeah,
think about that? Try to
yeah,
stop. Try to stop listening to me and understanding what I'm saying. Try to stop. You can't. Your
yeah.
brain's putting it together automatically.
I
Where it
generally,
fundamentally puts us in a spell. Like that's what
yeah,
I'm saying.
yeah, of course, of
So.
course. Like I generally think in pictures and music, and then I have to translate that picture and music into words, which
Mhm.
makes me get my point across shitty sometimes because I lose. It's hard to do that, but I like again. I'm not trying to say you're wrong. I just can't fathom how English is only analytical when I don't think that way. You know,
Mhm.
and
Gotcha.
I don't
Yeah, but
try.
I mean, a real simple way, a real simple example is like if a cat is sitting on a mat and you walk
Yeah,
by it and you're trying to explain a cat on a mat to somebody, you're just like, oh, the cat is on the mat. When in reality, the cat is catting. The cat is actually being a cat and it's functioning like a cat. It's doing
and
the cat is actually catting, and that's the way we should communicate that. But we're just like the cat's on the mat.
no, yeah,
It's
Right.
not
no,
the
I
same
the
thing. It's
cat is
completely
being a
different.
cat. Like the cat
Yes.
is being a cat. That's the way I think about it. So maybe I'm a bit different than most people, but you're right. The cat is being a cat.
You probably think of that because you've actually looked at different languages, but the vast majority of people
Yeah,
that speak
yeah.
English don't know shit.
So yeah, fair enough, fair enough, fair enough, fair enough.
Right.
And I'm
Well,
not trying to
so
say English is stupid or anything. I'm just trying to
yeah.
understand it in my own head because of how. Yeah. No, I agree fully. for sure.
Okay, so let's take what you mentioned earlier, which I was like, yeah. It kind of we use it as a tool. It's not the thing. It's not the moon. It's the finger pointing at the moon. Like that's what
Yeah.
language is, right? That's what our thoughts are.
Yeah.
Kind of,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so let's take that. Now imagine when I'm talking to you, I can tell you, I can talk in, I don't know, 30 seconds, which is impossible for me because I talk way too much. I have like so many weird concepts up here, and I'm trying to I'm hedging myself. I'm trying to figure out ways to describe all the parameters. So I think I'm communicating clearly. One of the most common insecure phrases I have is, does that make sense? Right? Because I don't know if the words I'm saying are actually landing. And I'm only going to know based on how you respond, if I'm listening to you and if I'm responding to you. And most people, I can tell you, have no fucking clue what I say typically, except for a few people that I'm good friends with. But they will nod and say, yes, they understand. And then they will start to act and make arguments and theories that completely don't understand at all. So it might be a poor job on my part communicating, right? But imagine we had a language so sophisticated that if I said one or two words, like take logos, and we were educated, and I used the word logos, whatever those 8 pages were, whatever that feeling or concept or not gnosis, but like educated, learn like, or not even learning, you learn by doing stuff. That's also in the language. They never describe learning as reading or learning and just absorbing. They describe learning from battle, learning from fighting, learning from loving, learning. Everything is associated to in motion, in action, right? That language also does that. So it's priming your brain to connect to reality better. Now, if I said one word like logos and you knew that I meant all of that stuff, and it wasn't just memorized, it was like an automatic storage unit in there. And now all the other words after that, imagine how sophisticated your communication and your thoughts could start becoming. And how much, and then they were using the powers of the gods, the plants and stuff. Of course they were. Like that is what I think gave it. I don't think the language came first. I think like what Tiger Shark's talking about. These are the people that survived the bottleneck. These are the people that followed liberty and became diverse and amazing. And then they started encoding it in some kind of thing they could pass down, a technology they could give to each generation, and that is what language became, right? And so when it's attached to priming your brain and your thoughts to connecting and moving better with reality, not reality itself, and you're not thinking of things as siloed off definitions, nouns, things in the past, static things, that when I'm communicating to you, like I'm more connected to how reality actually works. And the more I get away from it, the more I can just get up in my head and be really relativistic about a lot of stuff, and then read a whole bunch of books, and then sit here and talk for hours. And in action, in my life, I am doing nothing but sitting and reading and talking. So that means in reality, I'm only good at sitting, reading, and talking specific language with like specific people. I am not
That's
good at the
exactly
things
what
I'm
Terrence
learning.
McKenna said.
Yeah,
That's what
I'm
Terrence
not.
McKenna said. He said, if you
Yes,
don't do
yes.
the psychedelics or you take the psychedelics away from a culture, the only thing they have left to go back on is philosophy.
Well,
So
and
he
it's
recommended the people, all the people that are scared of doing the psychedelics, that they just go philosophize the world. And then you end up in the same position that you were in, contemplating doing psychedelics in the first place.
and we end up mistaking that stuff for skill and for knowledge, and we end up being able to be what advertised to very easily. We end up being able to be taken over by charismatic leaders. Why is that possible? Anybody who's got, now this comes from life experience, and like could be drugs, could be practice, could be whatever else, but why do I know now at where I'm at? And I mean, I've worked with a lot with directing with actors. I've worked a lot with working with images and like other. Oh, were you saying something? Which doctor?
No, I'm sorry, guys. I was just talking to my wife. She poked her head in because the
Okay. Sorry. Hey, Miss Witch Doctor. So so I can see, that is all though from experience of trial and error of like practicing being really quiet and trying to feel somebody through my senses and not judge it. And then that barrier is very difficult to get past, man, because you take on whatever they're emitting and it can be fucking dark, man. And then you have to figure out how you deal with it and how you're going to work with it. Okay. So how can I sit in front of a charismatic con artist right now? And I know within about 20, 30 seconds of a couple sentences, couple questions, and then I'll do a couple other things, how do I know they're a con artist? They don't tell me they're a con artist. In fact, they're very good at it because I'm watching them. I'm
You need to
watching what
know
they do, even
you
their
need to
micro expressions, even how they move stuff around on a table. And it's
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
forming the full picture of what, in general, that person is in that moment and how I should navigate them. That is a much more like effective way to navigate anything than it is to think, I know what a con artist is. They wear a button that says con artist, or they wear this suit and they talk like this. And so now I know what a con artist is. Well, that just blinds me to all the other con artistry. Now I'm an idiot because now I think I know what's going on, and then it allows a really good con artist to find out what your script is in your head, what you think reality is, and you're so certain about, which is what magicians do. And then I can, when I figure out that you're so certain about that, man, do I got you another script for you? And I'm going to go in there. I'm going to push
Yeah.
the context of your boundaries of what you think is right and wrong. I'm maybe going to disrupt them a little bit. Then I'm going to maybe say like it's okay. I'm going to give you permission to do like this is how we get fooled all the time, and we
Yeah.
get fooled because they're hijacking or going into systems that we use to bond for real, and we use to anyway to like form relationships and care about yourself. But we're caught in this abstract language, the more and more detached we get from it, the more and more susceptible we become. And I mean it's I don't know, man. I just feel
No,
like I don't understand.
I see what you're saying now. Yeah, I get it now. I wasn't getting it at first because I felt like you were saying it's impossible to avoid these things, but you're really speaking in general terms of the average layperson who basically doesn't know how to speak or operate their language.
Yeah, I think there's something to that. Yeah,
If,
absolutely.
if,
Well, and it's
if,
also,
if you're talking about NPC humans as opposed to people who know how to think and philosophize and do anything outside of being an
do,
NPC.
period. Thinking
Yeah,
philosophizing is for the tent
it's
at night
useless.
when you're
Would
resting.
you rather sit in your room and read about somebody having sex or actually go have sex?
Yeah,
You know
that's
what I
like
mean? I mean that.
it's like reading a book about karate and thinking you know how to do karate. You got to go out and do
Yes,
karate. That's why it's
yes.
confusing to me because learning is through doing. I don't understand this. We don't learn through doing anymore. It's the only fucking way to learn. Like it just flow. I don't know. Maybe I don't know very many NPCs or something because I don't really interact with any of them, so I don't know what they're like.
Yeah, well, all of this is counterintuitive to us because
Yeah,
again,
yeah,
that's the inversion, right? That I am so fascinated by.
yeah,
But anyway, that is the inversion. Not to mention, a lot of those skills are from the Magi. I mean, these operators are pretty amazing. I'm really fascinated by all the variety of them, and I'm not saying in a lot of good ways at all because, but hot damn, does the idea of the spell, casting a spell, spelling a word or something like
yeah,
that, putting an
yeah,
idea in your head from a distance and creating a projection, and then like inciting fear, right? Inciting fear, which is our most strongest signal, and then if I can calcify an identity in there that you have to protect, and then I can set up the parameters for it. I kind of know how you're going to react or in general, and then I take care of the people who like become awakened or something, right? But like
yeah,
they were using these techniques on top of using the drugs, which is what Tiger's talking about, like how powerful
yeah,
they are. And they were doing things like implanting an outer authority after you went through a ritual where whatever the process was, and everyone wants to argue all day long about that, and that's great. There's a whole bunch of them,
yeah,
and I'm sure there's all these variations of them, and they were all
Yeah.
secretive because they worked and they were effective, and you could build
That's
yourself a
why,
little
dude,
damn army
I
with
gotta
it.
stop you there.
Yeah.
That's why I laugh at these guys like Neil that are talking about burning purple. It's like, dude, do you realize if you actually go look up the process for making the dye, they would literally use Syrian rune henbane seeds as a mortificient, which would make the colors pop and last longer on
Mhm.
certain materials. And so they were already making these with hallucinogenics in them, but also using them for different material properties. But
Hence, if you
they would
touch
make them with
someone,
different,
you
they
might
would make
start
them with
tripping.
different, they would make them with different properties. Dude,
Yeah.
they even found in Turkey, 30, I think it's 30, dated back 34,000 years, a literal sindone next
I know.
to a next to a place that they're preparing dye
Of
color
course.
with other psychedelic plants. And uh So there's hard physical evidence for that.
So
Aside from that, but
Yeah.
I have
So
it's all a part of the dye making process.
yeah.
In the best vase. What else did they find in the best vase? Egyptian blue dye. So when they
Yeah.
mix the dye in, it's a part of the fucking rituals, dude. And these
Yes.
guys are like, burning purple's not there. It's not there anywhere. It's all over the fucking place.
Yeah.
And they're using different shit. It's not the same fucking mix all the time. It's different mixes wherever the fuck they're located.
Yeah. And now, Marcel, imagine these rituals that empowered people, and they could be, again, there could be a ton of these that were so powerful that they were revolved around getting rid of your fear of death, your most basic instinct. Now, or maybe treating it as a signal so you can start living, right? And become part of the cycle instead of living, like not living at all and being in fear all the time because, life is death, is life, is whatever, And imagine some of those rituals that are so powerful that like unlocked people and empowered them, like their own physiology does it. Someone gives you maybe the steps and they help engineer it, like a shaman or I don't know, million and the whole temple of Eleusis, everything. Now I do that for you. And right when you're at that, your whole identity is shattered and you're coming back. You can experience it through different substances or near-death experiences or severe trauma and stress or something where your sense of reality is so like broken because you have no control over anything and you're spinning out in your head and that little thinking brain just can't hold on anymore. When you go through that ecstatic state or whatever else where you're coming back to like building this new version of yourself, imagine there was someone there waiting for you with some more different substances or drugs. And then they told you when they gave you good ecstatic ones, or they gave you some kind of thing that like was that right at that good moment, that ecstatic, oh my God, I'm one with the universe. They said, actually, a guy I follow gave this to you. This feeling you have right now, this power you just got, that came from my guy, right? So if you want it more, you're going to have to follow me. Also, you can't get it anywhere else. Everything else is evil. And that power that just changed your life, that just made you stronger or feel better or whatever else, that is attached to an outside authority, an outside fiction in your head that I control, that I tell you is there, and you need to follow it no matter what. When people you prime someone to feel that, and they actually feel bonded to that, they will die for it because it gave them that ecstatic moment, and it
That
made them
sounds like
a little bit
Epstein,
better.
dude.
Yes. Well, that's what those Magi's got busted doing exact things, engineering, like jeopardizing people. Yeah.
Well, they
Yes.
found Epstein in those emails that he was telling people how to plant and grow, and also bring his I believe it was salvia that he had, right?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, he was using
It's
salvia
it's
to get
yes,
these
it's
chicks
powerful,
high
dude.
and do all that. Yeah,
Yeah,
nuts.
dude. And think about just I don't know how that works. An empowerment, right? Now I'm not going to talk about all
Well,
the different
priest. Okay,
details
hang on real quick.
versus priest
Let's just.
class, what you're talking about.
It's
Yes.
priest class,
Yes.
but it's also this other thing that, and this is the thing. Maybe we close on it. I don't know. It's getting late. I know, but
Yeah.
Amen is exposing all of this. Okay, when people literally call in and they're like thinking that Amen is actually telling people to go do this stuff, he's exposing it. So like,
100%.
I don't care if Amen's right or wrong. He's right about exposing things like that. And if you're somebody that's like, that's not right, it sounds like you're like fighting the exposing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
because
so
it's hard to let go of a core axiom of who you've been for 30 years. You know what I mean? It's like shattering your whole world existence and having to reset everything you ever thought you ever knew is basically impossible for a lot of people, right?
Oh, it's a goat.
Yep.
Oh my God, he's adorable. Is it a he?
There you go. I can't see it. It's too small for me. You're muted, bro. I gotta unmute you. Hold on, I got it.
Yeah, it's adorable.
what's his name?
I can watch that
Well,
for hours.
I can't unmute you because I'm not allowed. Because you
He's
took
unmuted.
She's hungry.
Oh, is that the girl?
She is hungry. My microphone was turned off, but my headphones are
It's a
right
she.
there. So
Yeah.
she was just starving. I don't know why she's not eating the bottles by herself. We have a thing outside that
like
these are
hangs
set
them
up
upside
on.
down. They like hangs them and they like.
Yeah. Well,
She
and
wants to be hand fed. That's why she's bougie, man.
so I gotta cut out, and we'll continue this, and I think keep. And I view all of this as sharpening. I could give a shit. Don't subscribe. Don't donate to me. But check out Witch Doctor's book. Check out Witch Doctor's book. I like exploring this stuff, and I look forward to sharpening all of this stuff. And every time I talk to you guys, I get to talk to people who are interested in it. It makes me get a little bit more interested in like ways I can push it and stuff. And kind of the direction that I'm coming at it because of understanding what, for me anyway, how I was taught by Ula and other people about what filmmaking actually is. That it is an actual magic trick. That it is a magic thing that humans are able to engage with, and it is a very influential art form, and it's but also an amazing thing that you can get a group of people to, you can evoke an experience, a cathartic experience inside of people, and have them be connected to something they otherwise aren't fully connected to, so it might inspire them to look at it differently and go connect to it in reality, and understand it better. And that's really powerful, and I'm just convinced that the more that we look at the images like a film, that symbols are the same thing, including our letters and stuff. And they prime us and they hit our physiology in certain ways and they do certain things. And there's people that understood it better. And then there's the people that really understood the allegory, the tool of the allegory in Plato's cave. And they decided to engineer their own Plato's cave. And that's what we're kind of coming at. We're still kind of in it. We don't realize it. And it was a very big move. They told everybody they're in Plato's cave, and then they made another one that they engineered themselves, and they're ruling in it. So the upside down.
That's great chat, my friend. That was good.
So
Thanks, guys.
yeah, man. Witch Doctor, you there?
I'm back. Sorry, I had to take the goat outside. My bad.
Yeah, I think we're ready to close out the evening.
Oh, cool. Yeah, sorry. I had the baby crying, and then that goat wouldn't shut up. So
Yeah,
for some reason, I have.
When's the next book out, man? When's your next book coming out?
Oh, the hard copy of Antonius I'm gonna release soon.
Nice.
So you can't order that one; it's just Kindle. But yeah, no. And we'll talk more next time about some of the stuff that I want to put in the sequel to Secundus and stuff. But I haven't really started writing it yet. She's still crying out there. God, she's killing me, bro.
Dude, I can't wait to get a goat.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we can sign off, y'all. Ain't a big deal. y'all all say something real quick. Or?
Yeah, kind of.
I'm good.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, man. X-Force.